So last year I picked up a Galaxy S9, and since then I've been using it as my main phone. But is it still worth it in 2020? The short answer is yes. The longer version of that answer goes something like this. The phone is an eye candy to look at. In my opinion, this phone looks better than the S10 in some situations. I think there is something very satisfying about the curvature of the screen that complements the curvature of the chassis. And not having a hole in the screen definitely helps. The screen wraps around the edges and it meets seamlessly with the structural aluminum.
Precision machined structural aluminium bands, anodized to complement an all-glass enclosure.
That also makes it extremely slippery to hold and prone to cracks and damages. Nothing that a case won't solve though. Over the past year, I've accumulated a few hairline scratches along with one deep scratch in the middle of the display. The metal body has definitely retained its original finish. On the back, the camera hump has the paint chipping off at a few locations, and the fingerprint scanner has completely lost all the paint and it kinda looks hideous. This is a common issue on this phone, and a quick Google search will confirm that Samsung is willing to replace this for you if your phone is still under warranty. But none of the cosmetic issues are immediately apparent, and when you look at this phone, it still looks amazing every time I look at it. I'm sure all of you have already noticed the strange port selection on this phone. I mean, there's a proper 3.5mm headphone port here, but the USB port is a real game changer. This phone can run a desktop version of Android called Samsung Desk, which can be activated when this phone is connected to an external display using the said USB-C port. If you don't intend to use this phone as your main computer, which you definitely can, you can use the included USB-C to USB-A dongle to connect various accessories including mouse, keyboard, external storage, USB microphone, and even an iPhone. There are two very special things about this phone. First, there's the Bixby button, which most people hate, and for good reason. But now that I've had this phone for a while, I've come to appreciate the customization aspect that comes because of this button. I used Tasker to map this button to enable split screen mode, so now this button is an essential part of my daily workflow on my phone. And the second special thing about this phone is an ability to expand the internal storage with a microSD card. Let's talk about the one thing you will interact with more than anything else on this phone. The screen is still one of the best you can get on a phone today. It's a 5.8-inch 1440p AMOLED panel with an 18.5:9 aspect ratio. That translates to a pixel density of 570 ppi. It also has amazing and vibrant colors that are a little too saturated for my preference. But if you have liked Samsung displays in the past, this is not going to disappoint you in any way. The few things that show the age of this phone are the top and the bottom bezel around the display and the refresh rate of 60 Hz. But those things don't really play a significant role in the day-to-day use of this phone. The size of the display and the taller aspect ratio makes it ideal for any app that has a vertical scrolling list, while the deep blacks and brighter colors paired with this aspect ratio makes it perfect to enjoy movies and TV shows. You also start to appreciate the top and bottom bezel when you hold the device in landscape mode. It also allows this amazing front speaker to be so good. Here is a sample so you can also appreciate the top and bottom bezels on this phone. There are no holes in the display, but there is an iris scanner with an infrared flood projector that can be used to unlock the phone. The software uses a combination of facial scan and iris scan to unlock your phone, making the whole process much faster than it has ever been in the previous versions of the same technology. And if all else fails, there's definitely a fingerprint scanner. Along with all the biometrics on the front of the phone, it also houses an 8-megapixel f1.7 autofocus selfie camera, which is also capable of 1440p 30fps HDR video recording. There's ample details in the skin, the color look natural, and the final image is just very pleasing to my eyes at least. The video performance is also pretty good. I've been shooting the talking head portions of my videos from this camera and I don't have any major issues. Depending on how far the source is, the microphone on the phone can sound a little harsh, and I think that's more than acceptable performance. And that amazing camera performance that we were just talking about, that was the second best camera on this phone. The main shooter is a 12-megapixel variable aperture camera that can switch from f1.5 to f2.4. The camera uses a f2.4 mode when there is good lighting to get great photos with good dynamic range and amazing detail. It switches to f1.5 in low light scenarios to capture more light. If you want, you can also manually switch to f1.5 in the Pro mode to capture a shallower depth of field. Although the f-stop of 1.5 helps the camera capture some amazing shots at night, but the default image processing goes through a very aggressive noise reduction process that results in some loss of details and textures in extreme scenarios. But if you don't like that, you can also capture raw images using the Pro mode and edit them the way you like them to be. In good lighting, the 4K and 1080p videos come out to be amazing at 30 and 60 FPS. If we break down the exposure for a given frame, the darker and lighter objects on the frame remain balanced, and this phone does its best to keep the whole scene exposed correctly. The dual pixel autofocus assists in making the subject of the video stay in focus. The focus switching is precise and fast. As soon as you turn the lights down, or move indoor in my case, the sharpness of the video goes down drastically. The dynamic range takes a huge hit, with the darker parts of the video turning to black areas with no detail whatsoever. Overall, Galaxy S9 is a great camera for photos and decent for videos. Now let's talk about the performance of this device. The heart of this phone is a Snapdragon 845 with 4 high-performance cores running at 2.8 GHz and other 4 cores running at 1.7 GHz. There is a Adreno 630 GPU which can hold its own in any game you want to throw at it. Although some Android fanboys would definitely laugh at the 4 GB of RAM, they would be wrong to judge this book by its cover. Let's now talk about the benchmarks, the Antutus, the Geekbench, and whatever else people are using to determine how good the phone appears to be. Instead, we can talk about realistic work and play scenarios. I've used this phone to record multiple videos for this channel, but since I couldn't use this phone as the video camera for this video, I chose to not only write the script and record the audio on this phone. I've had multiple apps open side by side and in floating windows, and every single app worked without any stuttering. I don't know if it is Android Pie that has been optimized that well to work with Snapdragon 845 and 4 gigs of RAM, but this phone is not slow in any realistic measurement. This phone was released with Android 8.0 and currently it is running Android 9.0 with the security patch from September 2019. As it might be evident, if you want timely updates and want to stay on the latest and greatest Android version, you might want to skip this phone and every other Samsung phone for that matter. If you decide to pick up this phone, you can find it for pretty cheap on eBay or Amazon, and I can guarantee if Android versions are not your major concern, this phone would be perfect for you. Anyways, thank you for watching. If this video helped you in any way possible, please hit the like button. And if you did not like this video, please hit the dislike button. I'm working on improving my channel and any input is more than welcome. And if you want more videos like these, consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks again for watching. This is Geet.